Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on the Colombians Football Report. Today we're going to talk about all the games that took place on day 5 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Now before we get into this video, 82% of the people who view my videos are not subscribed to the channel. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now let's get started with the games. And the first game that took place today was Spain versus Cabo Verde in Atlanta, Georgia. And Spain was everyone's World Cup favorite. Everyone had them getting to the semifinals at least. Everyone had them in their top 3 for teams that could win the World Cup. Yet today they disappointed massively because they couldn't even beat the debutants Cabo Verde. And not only could they not beat them, they couldn't score a goal against them. Truly a disappointing start for Spain in their first World Cup game this year. But what a result from Cabo Verde. They have made this group interesting because I feel like now anything could happen. Everyone said that Spain and Uruguay were going to walk away with this group. But all of a sudden, now it looks like we could have a shock or two that could happen in this group. Now, from the start, Cabo Verde, they had one plan and one plan only, and that was to defend the goal. Make sure that Spain didn't score a single goal in this game and take that 0-0 result, which would be a crucial point. And they were successful with that tactic. The Cabo Verde defense today was insane. Pico Lopez and Dine Borges, they were both insane today. The two center backs, no one could get past them. And even on the few occasions that Spain were able to get a shot on goal, the goalkeeper, Vozinha, the 40-year-old goalkeeper, he was there to save the day for Cape Verde. And what a story for Vozinha. Vozinha, he didn't become a professional footballer until he was 25 years old. He started his career in Angola. He had some spells in the Portuguese lower divisions, in Angola, in the Cypriot first tier, and right now he's in the second division of Portugal. And he's 40 years old, playing in definitely his only World Cup. And on his debut, he kept a clean sheet against the European champions. Truly an inspiring story. And on Instagram, Vozinha went from having 50K followers to now having around 4 million followers at the time of this recording. Truly incredible stuff. This is why we love the World Cup. The World Cup is the only tournament that can give us moments like this. Spain had all the possession. They had the majority of the shots, and yet they still couldn't score a single goal against Cape Verde. And something to keep in mind is that Cape Verde, they didn't even play with their most recognizable player in the team, which is Logan Costa, the center back from Villarreal. He's still not fully fit because he didn't play the majority of the season due to an ACL injury. He just came back and he got called up to the World Cup, but he's not, obviously, he doesn't have 100% rhythm, and that's why he wasn't starting today for Cape Verde. And yet, despite that, the two center backs today, who play in the Irish League and the Emirati League respectively, they both did the job. They both stopped all of the Spain attacks. And same with Vozinha, the goalkeeper in the second division of Portugal. It's truly inspiring stuff. Spain, they look toothless in attack. And I mean, are we really surprised? They started Gavi on the wing, Ferran Torres on the wing, and Oyarzabal, he's usually pretty good for Spain, but today he barely even got a touch on the ball. Lamine Yamal came on late in the game because Spain were desperate. He had a couple of good actions here and there, but Cabo Verde was still able to stop him. And this is a massive result for the sets of islands that are playing in their first ever World Cup. Cabo Verde is made up of 3 islands that have a population of 500,000 people, and they have just tied against the European champions in their first ever World Cup game. That is truly inspiring. The second game that took place today was Belgium versus Egypt, and everyone said that this would be a very easy group for Belgium. Yet, despite that, it was Egypt who took the lead. Ashore with a brilliant goal from outside the box. It was an absolutely incredible strike, assisted by Mo Salah, who was celebrating his birthday today. and Egypt took a deserved 1-0 lead. Then in the second half, Belgium, they upped the intensity a little bit. Kevin De Bruyne hit the post from a free kick. But despite that, Egypt, they were still getting good chances on the counterattack. Marmoush, he should have had a goal, at least one goal today, but he missed some pretty easy chances, or at least easy for a player that plays for Manchester City. You would expect him to do a lot better in some of the situations he was in. Courtois also had to make some saves, but the hero today for Belgium turned out to be Lukaku. Even though the goal was not credited to him, it was an own goal from Hani, who, for me, had a great game despite the own goal. Uh, it, Without Lukaku, that goal wouldn't have happened. He basically forced Egypt to make a mistake at the back. He applied pressure from across, and that's exactly how Belgium scored. And overall, this game was just back and forth. Either one of these teams could have easily won this game, but in the end, I think the draw was a deserved result for both teams because neither team truly deserved to lose. It was a very entertaining game to watch. If anything, this game should have had even more goals in it than just 2 goals, but both teams were quite wasteful. Now we have Saudi Arabia versus Uruguay. Then these two teams are in the same group as Spain and Cape Verde. And from the start, it looked like Uruguay, their lineup was quite underwhelming. You would expect a giant like Uruguay, a former World Cup champion, not just one World Cup, but 2 World Cups in their history. You would expect them to have a much better lineup, but in reality, this was not an inspiring lineup. And it felt like Saudi Arabia could get something here. And that is exactly what happened because they were the one who scored first. Uruguay, they tried to attack for the first few minutes of the game, but then Saudi Arabia started growing into the game. They got a corner kick, and from that corner, the center back, Al Amri, he scored from a rebound after a huge mistake from the 40-year-old goalkeeper Muslera. And Saudi Arabia had the surprise 1-0 lead. And you would expect Saudi Arabia to improve after all the money they've invested. And today they definitely look like a team that improved a lot since the last few years. Now all of their players, for the most part, they're used to playing against good opposition because their league is filled with pretty good players now. And they even have a player who plays in the second best team in France, which is the right back Saud from Lens. But in the second half, Uruguay, they were desperate to get that equalizing goal, and you could tell since the beginning of the second half they went all out against Saudi Arabia. I think Saudi Arabia, they barely got any shots in that second half. It was all Uruguay, but the goalkeeper for Saudi Arabia, Al Owais, who actually plays in the second division of Saudi Arabia, he had an amazing performance today. He was saving every shot that Uruguay were shooting at his goal. Yet despite that, eventually Uruguay, they applied too much pressure, and it was Araujo who eventually got the equalizing goal in the 80th minute. And from then on, Uruguay, they were desperately looking for that winning goal. They could have had it. Federico Valverde had a great shot from outside the box, but it was saved once again from the hero for Saudi Arabia, Alois. And in the end, the game ended in a 1-1 draw. Now every team in this group has 1 point each. So anything could happen in this group. It'll be very interesting to see what happens on match day 2 when Spain face off against Saudi Arabia and Uruguay against Cape Verde. And lastly, we have Iran versus New Zealand. And this game was spectacular. I don't think anyone could have expected for this game to be as good as it was, but it was truly an amazing game to watch. Both teams knew that they needed to get 3 points in order to get out of this group because both teams, they knew that they had a relatively easy draw and that this was a once in a lifetime chance to get out of the group. So you could just tell both teams were going at each other. It was very entertaining to watch. The atmosphere in the game in California, in Los Angeles, was incredible. The stadium was full of Iranians. Yet, despite that, it was just the player from New Zealand who got the first goal. What an amazing assist from Chris Wood. He chest controlled it and then set up Juice for the volley, and it was a brilliant goal. one of the most unique goals of the World Cup so far, I would say. Yet, despite New Zealand taking the lead, Iran, they still went for that equalizer. They kept pushing and pushing. Taremi hit the post, yet eventually they finally got that equalizing goal thanks to Rezaeian, the 36-year-old right back, who became the first ever Iranian player to score in 2 World Cups in a row. And in general, he had an incredible game today. He was running like crazy. He did not look like a player of 36 years of age because his pace and his stamina were just insane. He was a constant threat for New Zealand. Yet, despite Iran continuing to push for that goal and New Zealand having their chances here and there, it was New Zealand who would get the second goal of the game. And once again, it would be just the player who plays for Motherwell in Scotland. And once again, he was assisted by Chris Wood, who once again had brilliant hold up play and found just so that he could score to give New Zealand their second goal of the game and his second goal of the game. Yet, despite that, Iran did not give up. They kept pushing, and just 10 minutes after that goal from New Zealand, Iran equalized again. It was Mohebi with a brilliant header, one of the few Iranian players who play in Europe nowadays. And you could just tell because the quality of that header was just brilliant. It was a fantastic bullet header off the post and in. And the stadium, it went wild when that goal went in. And it honestly felt like Iran were going to get that third goal to win the game because they had the momentum thanks to the second goal, thanks to the stadium being packed with Iranians. But New Zealand, they held on. They had a couple chances themselves, but they couldn't score. In stoppage time, the Iranian goalkeeper actually dribbled past Chris Wood, and that was a very fun moment to watch. And in general, this game was just fun to watch. This was one of the best games of the World Cup so far, and one of the games with the best atmosphere so far. And who would have thought when this game was drawn up that that would be the case? So that is it for day 5 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. And please remember to subscribe. And I have nothing else to say. Have a good night, everyone.